Hey, everybody. So it's good to be back. I took about 10 days off for an extended Thanksgiving break from the channel. And it was just a really good time that I think I needed to reflect on the past year and to spend some time looking forward to where I think the channel should go in the future. So during that time, believe me, it was really tempting to just jump on here with hot takes about the news and, like these I've got loads of things that I want to say about the people that Trump is choosing for his cabinet, for instance. I think some of them are just totally ridiculous choices, and I think some of them are downright dangerous. But I'm glad that other people are talking about them right now because we're going to have 4 years to talk about that stuff. But I've been intentionally taking a little bit of time here to slow down and discern how this channel can be the most helpful in the coming years. I want to be in this for the long haul. So I think I need to be wise about how I approach this new season because it's kind of setting us up for the future. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be sharing 10 lessons for the future that I learned from this past election. And as I've been laying out those lessons, I've been super encouraged about the future. I'm looking forward to sharing those things. And I think that they're going to be helpful for people. But before I start that series, I wanted to talk about an actual mistake that I think I made early on in my own approach to the 2024 election. And I'm sharing this because I think it might help other people not to do what I did. And it's a real thing. It's not some scandalous thing. It's just a real, I think, strategic mistake that I made. And I don't want to repeat it for the coming years. So anyway, here it is. I think I took too much time off after the 2020 election. I spent too much time licking my wounds after that election, one that my team actually won in 2020. And by doing that, I think I set myself up to have a lot less influence in the 2024 election than I think I should have had. And I'm not saying this to be like unduly hard on myself. It's just a fact. The most difficult part of this past election for me is that I felt like I had some important things to share with people, but I hadn't done the work to put myself in a position to share those things as widely as I think I could have. I started this channel back in 2019, and I wrote my book, MAGA Seduction, during the 2020 election. That was sort of like my way of standing up to what I saw as the poisonous influence that Trump's movement was having on Christians. And by the end of that election, though, I was completely worn out, and I felt disillusioned at that time about the state of the church in America, and I had no desire then to talk about those issues anymore. And I mean, Trump lost that election, but I didn't feel like I had won. I felt like I'd lost my innocence about the Christian movement that I'd invested decades of my life in building and caring for. So, I mean, I love America, so I was glad that we staved off Trumpism for 4 more years, but I felt like nothing had changed in the church. Trump lost that 2020 election despite the support of a huge majority of people who call themselves Christians. So yeah, I mean, I was glad that he lost, but my own larger purpose was always to raise an alarm for Christians that they were selling their birthright for a bowl of pottage. And I had worked hard to help them see that they were sacrificing their conscience. They were sacrificing their moral authority to support a degenerate who was only using them. So even though Trump lost in 2020, I didn't feel much like celebrating because I saw that conservative Christians had become entrenched in their support for the most dangerous man in America. So I took some time off from talking about all that stuff, and then I took some more time off. I wanted someone else to step in and do that work, and some people did, obviously. But I was just exhausted and disgusted after the 2020 election. I remember going off Facebook after that election, and my final message on Facebook was something like, I'll never be able to unlearn the things I learned about the evangelical movement during this election. And I'm not proud of this message, by the way, but this is what I wrote, and it went on. I will never again set foot in an evangelical church unless it's for a wedding, a funeral, or if they pay me to come and preach their destruction. Kind of proud of that line, actually. But so that was me in 2020. I mean, and that shows I obviously needed some time off, and I wasn't wrong to take a little time off, and I wasn't wrong to, do some soul searching about all of that. But in retrospect, I think I took off too much time before I got going again on this channel and other things. So I wish now that I had spent 2021 and 2022 and 2023 creating content that might have laid more of a groundwork for the work that I did in 2024. I especially wish that I had spent some time building connections with other people who are doing the same sort of work that I was doing. So, in a nutshell, I think that I've got some valuable things to say, but I think I sabotaged my ability to say those things to a wider audience in 2024. Because I remember I reached out to quite a few influencers this year to try to work together, but they just had no idea who I was. And that's because I hadn't done the work in the years before that time to build those connections. So here's the lesson. I think this is a lesson for all of us in whatever level we're trying to contribute to society. If we have something to offer to the conversation, if we have something to offer to society, I think we need to do the work to earn a hearing for that. In my first book, Mega Seduction, I wrote that one thing we can all aspire to is to become a trusted source of truth for our friends and our families, and maybe even on a broader level. And so that's what I've been trying to do with this channel. I want to become a trusted source of truth. But I think I need to increase my efforts in the coming year. I mean, I'm going to take care of myself for sure, but I'm not going to drop out of the conversation the way that I did after the 2020 election. My goal in 2025 is to do the opposite regarding this channel. My goal in 2025 is to build my influence. So I'm from Minnesota, and we tend to be almost allergic to putting ourselves forward in that sort of way. Especially in my own family, modesty is something that we all take really seriously. So it's actually hard for me to say something like, I plan to build my influence in 2025. Everything in me wants to do the aw shucks thing that I always do and just, not put myself forward. But I think that's a mistake. I think I've done that for too long, because the thing is, I'm not wrong about Donald Trump. And I'm not wrong about the poisonous influence the MAGA movement has had within the church. And I'm not wrong that a huge portion of the church in America is headed off a spiritual cliff following this guy. But I can't even convince some of my people who are closest to me about these things. They aren't hearing enough people saying those sorts of things, so I sound like an outlier to them. So I want to play a larger role in the coming years to share my own voice, but I also want to build up other people's voices. So it was a mistake, I think, for me to sort of go into a shell after the 2020 election. I think I wasted a few years where I could have been helping to build a movement to bring truth and sanity back to the church. And by extension, I think that might have helped to bring truth and sanity back to the nation's politics. Because people who call themselves Christians are currently embracing lies and insanity as a political strategy. So I don't want to repeat that mistake this time around. So I don't know where this is all going to go eventually, but I plan to do my part to build something good for the future. So toward that end, just in the near future here, during December, I plan to share 10 important lessons I learned from the 2024 election. I've given a lot of thought to this, and I think that those videos are going to be very practical and forward-looking. And I also plan to do a series of talks soon with my friend Pastor Dave Johnson about the book, The Violent Take It by Force, by Matthew Taylor. That's an eye-opening book about one of the most dangerous Christian movements in America, and it's one that I have a certain amount of personal experience with. So I think that those talks with Dave are going to be fascinating. And I've got some other videos planned as well, and I'm sure I'll be commenting on current events again come January. But I'm looking forward to laying a groundwork in December for where this channel is going in the years to come. So I hope you come along with that. And as always, thanks for listening.